Kino pavasaris. Kovo 18, balandžio 5 dienomis visoje Lietuvoje. Didysis partneris Ergo draudimo grupė. Informaciniai partneriai TV3, 15 min žmonės.
Mūsų karta pirmoji supratusi, kaip iš lėto kenkiame gamtai. Ir vienintelė, žinanti, kad dar yra laiko ją išsaugoti. Apsaugokime mūsų visų ateitį. Ergo.
Geriausius kino pavasario filmus parodys žiūrimiausia televizija TV3. Šeštadieniais 22:40.
Festivalis Kino pavasaris jūsų namuose. Visus filmus žiūrėkite Telia televizijoje jums patogiu metu. Telia. Įdomiau tik gyvenimas.
Visiškas 2021 metų atradimas. Labai skaniai susukta. Ragaučiau antrą kartą.
Sveiki kino pavasario ir 15 min žiūrovai. Sveikinamės su jumis šį sykį, kad pasiūlytumėm dar vieną įdomų pokalbį. Šį kartą su norvegė režisierė Itonje Søimer Guttormsen, su kuria kalbėsimės apie jos filmą Gritt. Ir drauge kino festivalio programoje šis filmas yra suporuotas su rašytojos iš Brazilijos Clarice Lispector kūriniu Arti laukinės širdies, kurį išleido leidykla Baltos lankos. Abu kūriniai, tiek filmas, tiek knyga, yra susieti pasakojimo apie moterį iš laisvos nuo stereotipų išlaisvintos perspektyvos, tokia impresionistinė, fragmentinė kalba. Taip pat primenu, kad skatiname klausti Itonje ir klausimus galite užduoti transliacijos komentaruose. Na, o aš sveikinuosi su Itonje. Hello, nice to have you here, at least virtually.
Thank you so much. Thank you for being here and listening to your beautiful language in your introduction, although I didn't get it.
Thank you so much. So let's start, if we shall. My first question will part directly from the first scene of the movie. So when it opens, we have the main character, Gritt, talking to her friend, which is an artist and a musician, and also has a Down syndrome. Despite of that, she's really intellectual. So the conversation itself is quite a philosophical one. And then Gritt has an idea which she expresses more or less in this wording. She talks about the roles that women are trapped in. So was it a subtle, punchline of the movie trying to grasp the theme of it?
Yes, perhaps maybe. I think she says something like, especially as women, but she's talking more generally about the roles our society is capturing us in, and because Gritt is kind of she's a woman who definitely doesn't really fit into any category, and also she's having troubles to finding her place in society. So this image of her first art project being something which she's trying to break free of roles. It's also kind of under theme there that she's in search of her own role. She doesn't have a place, I guess. So aspect is of course a part of it as well. Yeah.
And when I think about Gritt and about her character, she has like two aspects there. I mean, the main ones, although there are more to it all. So she's an aspiring artist. She tries to start with a project, the big one, an ambitious one, and then through the eyes of society, she could be seen from the stereotypical kind of way as a loser, no job, no place to live, no family, kids, partner whatsoever. And do you actually intended to work on our frameworking and how the society frames the concept of success, who is and what is successful?
Yes, this was really intentional. I really wanted to question rather than to point out what we see as a valuable citizen, like a productive member of society, how we kind of what we value a worthy life, I guess. And Gritt being a person driven by ideals and ideas and passion and a true calling, I think. But not being so attentive to other needs and not having had the time or focus to prioritize making a stable ground for herself. I think she's she does provoke people in her true being. I think people tend to see people who doesn't have it all stabilized as provoking and even threatening in a way. Maybe they represent something that we fear deep inside, the lack of security. And people like Gritt go on a limb and follow their dreams. Maybe they also represent or awaken some kind of longing within people, I hope. But this longing is the need for to follow your dream, and the longing for existential freedom perhaps might also be very threatening. So rather than pointing out, I think I really wanted to make an open film where you could question this, and I think the way you respond to Gritt might tell you something about yourself.
Gritt is very linked to the idea of chaos, I suppose. Her life just flows and things are happening, and to our, especially Western, I suppose, point of view, when you have to be in order and you have to serve a purpose and everything has to be in place and in a frame, it's kind of triggering, I suppose.
Yeah, I think maybe perhaps, or at least in Scandinavian society, I don't know how your society is, but I guess it's still both Eastern and North. So I guess you have some of the same principles and order and safety and coziness and cleanness is definitely part of our society. And I think people, fear chaos. But as an artist and someone who wants to create something and someone who wants to change something, chaos is needed and an essential part of this realm to be able to create. So, but of course, at some point, if you have if everything is chaos, it can easily also break. That's a vulnerable state. And I think in this film, of course, Gritt she's kind of an unusual Norwegian because she left Norway very early, like just after high school, and went straight to LA, and she kind of left the Norwegian-ness behind, which is seen as, of course, very arrogant. And then when she comes back 17 years later, not with her tail between her legs, but still, and she's not coming back very humble. She's coming back wanting to change society with this huge art project, ritual art performance called The White Inflammation. So she's basically criticizing the Norwegian society after being away for 17 years. So that's not the best starting point, I guess. But also, I think she doesn't have the typical Norwegian background. She's not from a bourgeois family. She doesn't have like stable parents with stable economy and a cabin in the mountains. And this is not a part of her life experience. She grew up in a charismatic society on the what you call Sør-Vestland in Norway, on the south coast, Christian society, and but being one out of 7 siblings, the youngest, and then just a half sibling of the others, with a father who was a minister, and then her mother took her away from this society, closed, idealistic Christian society. So she's kind of torn away from early on, but she has this strong sense of idealism and community, which is a longing within, I think. And then she's searching in the field of art for this outlet of her beliefs and her wish to live close to her ideals. And that kind of crashes, I guess, also with the Norwegian like thoughts on productivity, effectiveness, consumption, and family structures and school system and everything. So she's she's a bug in the system.
Yeah, she's a clash in the system, both, I suppose, in the society and in the artistic field itself, because she's not there for scholarships, she's not eligible, she's constantly fighting with all the bureaucracy around that. And you mentioned the title of her ritual or the performance that she wants to do, and it's white inflammation. Also an ambition, quite a hard work to do, and with a really critical social intention, this artwork that she's planning. I myself sensed that idea there is linked with the idea of Western apathy, or our tendency to, lack of being empathic to each other, or lack of being attentive, at least. Is my impression totally wrong?
No, I think that Gritt, when she comes back to Norway, I think she really gets this apathy in her face. Also, as an artist, I think, because she's been living around the world, in Europe and in Aalborg and in different groups where probably no one had money, but coming to Norway, it's not easy. That's not an easy life to be like. Because everything is very expensive, and so if you're going to survive as an artist, you have to get the trust of the funding systems, which are really, really good, and we're very lucky to have them. But of course, the competition is high, and for Gritt, who hasn't done the proper steps, who hasn't attended the right schools, who hasn't spent her time connecting. She has spent her time searching and experiencing and exploring. She falls through also there. And I think what she sees and meets in the Scandinavian society is this, that everyone is very well adjusted. Also the artists, I guess, are kind of well adjusted. And then if you're not within the system, you totally fall apart. But I think maybe in other societies, you will have a richer underground, or it would be maybe more acceptable and easy to thrive and survive in more alternative ways. So I think she sees this apathy or this unwillingness to act. She feels that because the people around her are very well suited in their positions, either in the institutional theaters or that they have their own. If they are in the free field, they at least have their own system, and which is supported maybe again. Then so she's. But it's also a bit problematic criticizing everyone else. I mean, those around her, which we meet in the film, I don't criticize them, and Gritt doesn't judge them either like that, because she really respects people who has a vision and who works for it. Like, for example, with Lars Øyno, and who has the Theater of the Cruelty, which is a big part of the film. He has built a real theater, which is in Oslo, based on Antonin Artaud's ideas, and is an extremely hardworking man with high integrity in what he does, and Gritt really respects that. So it's not that she sees others as enemies, but she just she has a hard time finding her own ground, and that people are not able to join into her projects. It's also understandable.
Yeah, she's struggling quite a lot during the movie, and that's one of the basis, I think, of it, to see her journey, and which actually links the movie with the book that we have somehow present in our conversation, which also presents, the personal journey with all the struggles and with all the ups and downs of it. I would like to think. And also other aspect about social critic and social reality in the film that I perceived might be, the bureaucratic ways, because here I have in mind a concrete scene there, which is towards the second half of the movie, when Gritt enters sobbing completely, down a sort of help center, and there are two employees with a questionnaire with pre-established questions that are trying to decide if she's actually qualified enough or competent enough to receive help. And that's really absurd when you think about a person which is completely, down and disrupted, having to answer the question, why did you not try to kill yourself? What's stopping you? So that's also one of the aspects, I suppose.
Yeah, definitely. And these are it's not so far from trying to get money from the culture fund to try to get convicted to the mental hospital. I think those are extremes, but all artists or many artists and people working in the free field or trying to build a dream, or even now, with Corona, everyone is more up in flux than ever. So I think this the path from the one institution to another can sometimes be not so far. And but I really wanted to question in that scene where she tries to get herself, I don't know if convicted is the right word, but taken in by a mental hospital, basically, also in a desperate need for shelter, but also desperate cry for help. I had because in the film I use everyone except from Gritt almost plays a version of themselves. So people are really contributing with their own position and sharing of their own life and their thoughts, but it's all fiction. But in that specific scene where she's trying to get help from the official mental institution, I had a long talk with the people working there who plays themselves, the doctors, and we really agreed on the solution that it was better off. Sometimes it is definitely better off not getting the help, and that Gritt might have been more sicker or really sick or ill in a hospital rather than out in the world. And I think what they kind of give her is some kind, although cold and schematic, some kind of key to her to her survival, which is that she has to find it within. And I think in our society we really believe that the security system will always catch you, like if we fall. But I don't think it's really not the case, and I think that we are maybe sometimes fooled if we think we will, because I do believe that the power to survive within is can be so strong if it's stimulated in the right way, or if it's found in the right way. And I think, at least for Gritt, the kind of final push she gets there might be debated as her salvation, I think. If that made any sense.
Yeah, for me it did completely. So also the identity of Gritt, which I perceived as a liquid one, and I here take the term liquid from the movie also, is linked with the way of telling the story. It's quite a fragmentic one, and actually, and it's based on different languages itself. So could you comment a bit of the technique of the narrative of the movie?
Yeah, I think for me, because when I write, I write from the whole structure of Gritt's kind of inner travel and her crisis and her growth and journey, her existential and mental and humanly journey was always very clear to me. But the actual, and I knew that it would be a travel from New York and then via Oslo and then to her suburbia. She spent some years and then out in the woods, and that would be the framework for the journey, but that the actual events and causes and stuff that she encounters and does throughout the movie would not be so, that should not be, I didn't want to lean on this classical, what do you call it in the English? I haven't spoken English in a while. Cause and effect. So I wanted the stuff that happened to her to be kind of, falling down on the nose-ish. And that what drives the story would be her intense project and her intense drive. So when I write, I really take what's in my closest, what falls on my nose. And for example, I was in New York and I found this card. I think actually I have it here still. I was in this shop, passed by a shop called Catland in Bushwick, and then I found this card. I should hide the number. The Fitness Witch, which was kind of intriguing. So I called the Fitness Witch and she came and we had a session where she did the Reiki and tarot card reading, but then also squats and push-ups. And I found this combination quite intriguing. And so after the session, I asked her, would you mind participating in my movie? It might take 1 year, it might take 5 years before I get money to come back and do that. And she said yes. So then I kind of wrote, or when we came back to shoot, which was, I didn't get the money. We just went on no money almost, and met her, and then I just told her what cards Gritt were to take, and she immediately understood what that meant for her travel journey. And then otherwise they were just going to play out. She was going to do to her like what she normally does in a session. And then we shot that. And then of course this is the way often I conduct scenes. So I would have like maybe 1 hour long scene, and then I would make some coverage of what I assume could be some kind of useful stuff in the edit. But then again, in edit, it's really about finding the film again. Everyone says this, but it's really about then deciding or to make dramaturgy and to make suspense. So I feel we have material is 110 scenes which the film contains of. There's at least, I have never added it up, but there's such a rich, I kind of feel I have Gritt's whole life, and then the film is just some fragments. I have been able to pick what I find useful for this story. So for a very long time, the film was 5 hours, and now it's 2, but it could go on.
Also, well, I come from literature, so for me it's inevitable to see in this case the text and to think about the actual text in the movie. So here I noticed that there is, the language that you would expect, a dialogue between the characters, and then there is this overflowing philosophical, reflective discourse, which is also there, which is normally narrated like in the scene when we just observe the character doing something or moving from place to place. So could you explain these two levels, the philosophical one and the one which is more, pragmatic, I suppose?
Yeah. Well, that's the amazing part about working with the film medium, because you have so many horses to play on in a way. you will have the actual dialogue, and then again in the dialogue you can have many levels, because it's what they say, and then it's what they express, and then it's what they don't express and don't say, and but then you would always have the edit, which is a language in itself, the way you get in and out of a scene, and of course music and sound in what you enlighten and how you want people to perceive. So and then in this specific film, you also have the voiceover or Gritt's ongoing essay, which can be read as many things, but I think it's in the film it's a way to get into Gritt's, not necessarily her thought chaos, but her ongoing essays, the way she sees the world, the way she wants to articulate herself about the world, but which is dear to her, and it's her dialogue with the world in a way, but it doesn't go out to the people. It stays somehow between her and the audience, her and us, and her and her, or her and her God, or what it could be. So so you have many. I think you have like the filmmaker's voice, Gritt's inner voice, and then what you see as real events, which I hope will be, or which even I feel is like lived life that I accidentally came and shot, which is not true, of course. It's all written, but still.
Actually, I really thought that this reflective level, the essay, as you explain it, of Gritt's, really links you with Clarice Lispector, that we get to know before the interview, that you really like the author, actually. So there's a connection between in the language, this consciousness of a woman who is just thinking about things, but she's not restricted by external narratives or the otherness. So it's really nice to see this uncontrollable role of her thought. And here I will pause a bit my questions and will use the one of the audience. We received, Erika asks, why did you choose this particular theme of the film and how it resonates with you?
Before answering that question, and thanks to Erik, it was his name, I have to add that the voiceover is written by a dancer and author called Sunniva Viker, which we had adapted and we found very useful. We found that her voice was Gritt's voice. So just so that is clear. So I think we should salute her for being a sibling with Clarice Lispector. But that aside, why I chose the theme, the question again was why I chose the theme
and how it resonates with you.
Yeah, I think I always wanted, from way back, I kind of missed seeing women on film, driven by ideas, driven by projects, driven by wants to accomplish something in the world, and that would burn within them and take them on bumpy rides. So it was a kind of a calling to contribute to that voice, or to having to make body to a active and unconventional and strong, unusual woman type. I think the theme about I think the film has many themes, but struggling for your own beliefs and your own conviction is definitely resonates with me, and the feeling of being alienated by your environment, but also alienating your environment. I see this happen to people, and I felt it myself before I managed to establish some kind of sensible art history. So yeah, I think this existential longing and pain of not being able to unfold and act and do your doings, unfold your calling, I guess, is a theme that resonates with me, and yeah, that I needed to express.
Thank you. And then about the second half of the movie, the language changes a bit. So we see the lacking of text, of talking, speaking, expressing something verbally in one of the parts, especially the hermit one. So why does it happen, and how does it connect with the change that is happening with Gritt at the moment, when she lives in the cabin in the forest in a quite an unconventional way, let's call it like that?
Yeah, well, I always knew that the solution for Gritt, or that she kind of had to burn all bridges, and that her salvation were not to be found with other people, but within herself, and by going into nature and live alone, and kind of detaching herself from society, a society she's not able to find a place in, would be her salvation, and that she needed she kind of goes out in the woods like a what do you call, torn animal, to heal and to arise. So but also, while writing the film, I wanted to kind of establish a support system for myself, to conduct the story out of, not to fall into conventional storytelling in a way. So I structured the film after a dance form called 5 Rhythms, which is you can find 5 rhythm groups all over the world, and it's a woman called Gabriela Roth who established it, and you can go and you dance for 2.5 hours, where a DJ is kind of curating music from the 5 principles, which are flow, staccato, chaos, lyrical, and silence. So this was my narrative in a way. So the last bit had to be silent. Also, I see it as that Gritt she's very driven by fire and earth, air. And that's her kind of elements throughout the movie. It's all thought out, it's verbal, she's talkative, she's idealistic, and she's passionate. But then kind of fire and air burns up in a way, and she's left with earth and water in the woods, which I think is kind of her the elements she needed to go to become, to arise, or to heal and recover and become whole, maybe. If that answered that question.
Yeah, thank you. So we could maybe think about the nature and the presence of nature in the movie, which is actually really there, as also part of a consciousness of the character, not just a scenery to be there.
Sure. In the film, present is also the myth of Lilith, which is Adam's ousted first wife, which is out of the Bible, but I run a performance group, or have an artistic praxis of which I call Lilithism, and so we're a group of 11 women who meet and do ritual performance based on Lilith, basically, or the Lilith spirit, which is or how I see it is that Lilith found Eden too safe and narrow, and Adam too rigid, and she escaped to go into the unknown and discover So she's an active, adventurous, and curious woman, but who also has she leaves all safety behind and has also the potential of destruction and madness and isolation, loneliness. So in our group, we're kind of bringing Lilith back to heal her and surround her and trying to make Eden, or the official space, let's say, more roamable so that it can contain Lilith. And at the point, Gritt meets us, the Lilithists, and is kind of handed the myth of Lilith, which for her becomes, in her desperation, it becomes a halmstrå, hay stray, a stray, and she kind of moves into that mythical tale or mythical longing, maybe, or she discovers this mythical longing. And Lilith in the film also, we use 16mm, especially out in the woods, and I see this as a kind of a Lilith's gaze, watching or discovering Gritt at her most vulnerable, or most open, or most in limbo, and that she's kind of drawn towards this mythic and then path and then nature. So it's and also because the society and the art world and the official stage she's trying to find her place in, when that doesn't work out for her, this other realm or reality becomes a home for her, I guess. So it's crucial.
To proceed to the closure of our conversation, which could, I suppose, go long and long, the idea that I got from what I heard you talking about is the finding things in oneself and looking into oneself to find the path, or whatever we would like to call it. And that is really interesting and really refreshing when talking about gender narratives, contemporary ones, that I sometimes find, talking about we women, groups, individuals that are somehow united, but lacking of the individual narratives and thinking, well, this is me, it's okay, I'm a woman, or a man, or whatever I want to call myself, but I'm an individual also. So it's really fresh in your film in Gritt to see that looking into oneself. Is that important to you?
Very important. It's very important to both. I think, I think we're really in our society, which is so, it's also very outer. We're looking at ourselves, we're taking pictures all the time, presenting, and now it's all digital, but we still, of course, we have, there's a whole other world there's a whole other realm there within, and the discoveries of the world, and what the world is and has been and will always be, is to be found in this inner person that we all have, and that we all have access to if we dare to look inward. And I think that's a source for our new times, which is definitely going to be, I want this film to enlighten, or to and encourage and enlighten and empower that journey, and to encourage people to dig within and find strength within, and without so that we can maybe leave this whole identity politics and identity focus for a while, maybe.
Thank you so much, Itonje, for answering my questions, for being with us today, and for bringing the movie to us. Ačiū žiūrėjusiems Kino pavasario žiūrovams 15 min platformos stebėtojams, ir kviečiu susitikti su Gritt filme, o su Clarice Lispector, pagrindinė veikėja knygoje Arti laukinės širdies. Ačiū žiūrėjusiems, ir likite sveiki.
Jeg jobber med en idé da, som...
Welcome to day 2 of the Norwegian Culture Festival.
Men Gritt skuespiller da? Ja.
Jeg driver ikke på den måten.
Nei.
Jeg kunstner. Ja, akkurat nå har jeg et ganske stort prosjekt som skal være et mer sånn kollektivt rituale for hele byen.
Du har gått litt vekk fra det der jeg skal bli store skuespiller på en måte?
Nei. Det et slags rituale, men i alle fall det handler på en måte om å prøve å bryte løs. Spesielt som kvinne, egentlig. Ja, for å synliggjøre den betennelsen som ligger over oss. Så jeg har en søknad i Norsk kulturråden også.
Søknaden avvist.
Hæ?
Have you ever had your cards read before? This looks bad.
Nei, men går det bra med deg nå, eller? Hva gjør du?
Hva skal du gjøre nå da, Jeanette? Eller Gritt? Hva heter det?
You're trapped and you're not able to see the way out.
Ok.
Dette Gritt, som skal hjelpe til ut spilleperioden.
You need to pay attention to what you really are.
Bor du I teatret, Gritt?
To what you really want.
Nei! Jeg vil gjerne gjøre noe som bidrar med noe, liksom.
Hva det du lever for?
It's our job as artists to break the structures of the mind, to break the systems in society.
There is poison. No. Those tunnels. That is job, family. De vil jo dette merkelagt på meg på en måte. Akkurat det samme som de gjør med kuer. I'm so overwhelmed that I'd fall. Dette en korsvei da. Og det der vi også kommer inn med vårt stykke. Og det noe I luften som minner om forandring. Eller oppvåkning. Armageddon.